Hello, everyone. This is Meenakshi Narula, founder and CEO at Mentoring the Mentors, an institute that accelerates your learning curve. As you know, I have been sharing with you ample resources so that you will be able to enhance your teacher's toolkit. You will be able to bring engagement, excitement, enrichment in your classes. So, for that, today in the series of sharing my knowledge with you, I am here with all of you with the sample lesson plan on your request for languages, Hindi and English. So, that's why I'll be keeping this video bilingual. I'll be talking in Hindi and English, right? So, I mean, see, when we are talking about languages, Hindi, English, Punjabi, what all languages we teach to our students, our objectives, our learning outcomes, they are more or less same or similar. So we are going to begin with lesson plan today. So here you go. Here, these are the learning outcomes. I have taken these learning outcomes from, as I've already shared with you, a resource that has been given to us by NCERT, that is Learning Outcomes Manual. You know very well, CBSE, NCERT, in collaboration with that, they have shared with us number of resources. So Learning Outcomes Manual is a wonderful resource for all the teachers so that you will be able to make wonderful lesson plans. And you see, lesson plan, whatever we plan, that only we teach and will be able to engage our students and will be able to achieve the learning outcomes. So the learning outcomes that are there in front of you on the screen right now, they are for English language. I have taken it for class 6. So let us talk about what kind of learning outcomes are there that we have to achieve. For class 6, there are a set of learning outcomes given. We need to make an opportunity matrix first that I have already shared with you in my competency-based education video part 2. I'll be sharing the link with all of you, right? In the description box, you will be able to go through that. So these are a set of learning outcomes here in front of you are for grade 6. You will be taking learning outcomes for your respective class from the manual, and from that you will be creating an opportunity matrix where you will be able to put a tick like what all learning outcomes you are going to achieve in a particular lesson. What is your target all about? So I have copied and pasted all the learning outcomes for grade 6 English language over here. So what is the first learning outcome right now on the screen is a learner. We are talking about learner. We are talking about the students who will be able to. And each learning outcome will begin with a verb, action word, as you can see, participates in activities, in English, like role play, group discussion, debate. Now you have to see like your learning outcome is children should be able to take part in English. They will be able to speak in English and they should be able to take part in role play, group discussion, debate. Now you have to see in what all lessons you will be able to cover these learning outcomes you will be able to achieve. Somewhere you will be able to engage the students in role play, in group discussion, in debates. And if that's not possible, let's go next. Read the next learning outcome. Recites and shares poems, songs, jokes, riddles, tongue twisters, etc. Enhancement of spoken skills. And then responds to oral messages, telephonic communication in English and communicates them in English or home language. Means should be able to understand the oral language listening skills we are talking about. So that is our learning outcome that we have to achieve through any of the lessons that are mentioned in our students' textbooks, that is there in the syllabus that we have got for a particular class. And the next learning outcome responds to announcements and the instructions made in the class, school assembly, railway station, in other public places all over. If the children, they are not able to understand that kind of announcements, they are not able to interpret. So what is the fun in learning that kind of language? Reads a variety of texts in English or Braille. See, that depends upon the kind of learners we're talking about, and identifies main ideas, characters, a sequence of the ideas and events, and relates with his or her personal experiences, relating with the personal life, real life integration. You have to do something. Any lesson, any topic you are taking up in the class, make sure your children should be able to relate the same with the daily life, with the real life situations. Reads to seek information from notice board, newspaper, internet, tables, charts, diagrams, etc. and then responds to a variety of questions on familiar and unfamiliar texts verbally and in writing. They are our learning outcomes. We need to see what all we'll be able to achieve in a particular lesson. Uses synonyms and antonyms appropriately and deduces word meanings from the clues in the context in a variety of the texts wherever the child reads from, newspapers, magazines, texts, etc. So we need to incorporate that kind of activities, right, in our classes. Now there are some more learning outcomes that have been mentioned for this very class. We are talking about grade 6. Yeah, writes words, phrases, simple sentences, or short paragraphs as dictated by the teacher. Should be able to listen to, understand, should be able to write the same. Uses meaningful sentences to describe, narrate factual, imaginary situations in speech and writing. Should be creative. Here we are talking about creativity, we are talking about critical thinking, child's imagination, innovation. Should be able to bring in, you see, LSRW, all the skills, and refers to dictionary to check the meaning and spelling, and to suggested websites for information. Should be involved and engaged in research kind of projects as well. Writes grammatically correct sentences for a variety of situations using proper nouns, pronouns, verb, adverbs, determiners, etc. Means etc. What all things, what all parts of speech they have been mentioned in the child syllabus, we should be able to teach them so that they will be able to use the same in the daily life, right? Should be able to enhance their writing skills. Drafts, revises, writes short paragraphs based on verbal, print, and visual clues. If you are sharing some clues with the students, they should be able to frame, you should be able to write a paragraph, writes coherently with focus on appropriate beginning, middle, and end in English. We're talking about English language here. The child should be able to understand, like if the children they are writing their own stories, autobiographies, they should know they how to start with beginning, middle, and accordingly they should move ahead. So, and another one is writes messages, invitations, short paragraphs, letters, formal and informal, with a sense of audience. Whom are they addressing to? What should be the content? What should be the format, the latest format that we are following? And visits language lab. If there is language lab, they should be able to connect with that, and writes book reviews. So these are the learning outcomes for grade 6. We need to see what all learning outcomes we will be able to incorporate in different lessons of our textbook that is there in the syllabus for our students. So we need to take these learning outcomes for our children as per the learning opportunity matrix, as I've already shared with you, right? I'll be sharing the link. Make sure you frame, you make a learning opportunity matrix, and accordingly go ahead with the lesson plan. Now, these were the learning outcomes for English language. Now, I have taken the learning outcomes for Hindi language as well for the same class. Let us see what is the difference in that. Now, I'll be talking in Hindi with you all. So, look here. What is written on the screen now? बच्चे विभिन्न प्रकार की ध्वनियां जैसे बारिश, हवा, रेल, बस, फेरी वाला आदि को सुनने के अनुभव, किसी वस्तु के स्वाद आदि के अनुभव को अपने ढंग से मौखिक सांकेतिक भाषा में प्रस्तुत करते हैं। सुनकर उसको इंटरप्रेट करना, सुना है और उसको डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट स्पीच कैसे उसको इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं, कन्वे कर रहे हैं, उस लैंग्वेज को वो समझ रहे हैं, ये हमारा एक लर्निंग आउटकम है। सुनी देखी गई बातों जैसे स्थानीय सामाजिक घटनाओं, कार्यक्रमों, गतिविधियों पर बेझिझक बात करते हैं, प्रश्न करते हैं। डिस्कशंस में उनको इन्वॉल्व करना है। कोई टॉपिक आप पढ़ा रहे हैं बच्चों को, उसके ऊपर उनको बोलिए कि वो तर्क वितर्क करें, उसमें बातचीत करें। तो कोई भी टॉपिक के साथ हम वो क्या लर्निंग आउटकम अचीव कर पा रहे हैं? देखी सुनी रचनाओं, घटनाओं, मुद्दों पर बातचीत को अपने ढंग से आगे बढ़ते हैं, जैसे किसी कहानी को आगे बढ़ाना। हम यूजुअली बच्चों को एक इन इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज आल्सो वी गिव दैट काइंड ऑफ एक्टिविटी, लाइक हम अपने बच्चों को कहते हैं कि स्टोरी का एक एंड जो है वो आप ट्वीक करिए, इसको अपनी भाषा में लिखिए, अपनी समझ के अकॉर्डिंगली लिखिए कि ये आपको जो कहानीकार ने ये जो एंड दिया है स्टोरी का, आप इसको अपनी भाषा में एक और इसको कंक्लूड कैसे कर सकते हैं, आप क्या सोचते हैं? यूज योर इमेजिनेशन। यहाँ आप क्रिएटिविटी की बात कर रहे हैं, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, जब वो लिख रहे हैं बोल रहे हैं, हम कम्युनिकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं। सो मिलकर बात कर रहे हैं, कोलैबोरेटिव वर्क कर रहे हैं, टुगेदर इन अ ग्रुप वर्क कर रहे हैं, तो हम कोलैबोरेशन की बात कर रहे हैं और 21st सेंचुरी स्किल्स को हम एनहांस कर रहे हैं। विभिन्न अवसरों संदर्भों में कही जा रही दूसरों की बातों को अपने ढंग से बताते हैं। जैसे आंखों से न देख पाने वाले साथी को यात्रा अनुभव, वो उसको इस तरीके से बता रहे हैं, नरेट करें कि उसको इमेजिन कर पाए। मतलब कितने सुंदर तरीके से लिखा है कि जिसके पास आंखें नहीं, आप उसको भी उस तरीके से समझा पाओ कि वो विजुअलाइज कर पाए, वो समझ पाए कि क्या हो रहा है। इस तरीके की लर्निंग आउटकम्स, ब्यूटीफुल लर्निंग आउटकम्स आपको मिलेंगे इस मैनुअल में। एनसीईआरटी का जो है, प्लीज आप अपनी क्लास के अकॉर्डिंगली लर्निंग आउटकम में से ये मैनुअल में से अपनी लर्निंग आउटकम, अपने विषय की, अपनी कक्षा की वो लीजिए और उसको लेसन में इनकॉर्पोरेट कीजिए। तो आपको देखिए लेसन कितना ही अच्छा, सुंदर, ब्यूटीफुल उभर के आता है। अपने परिवेश में मौजूद लोक कथाओं और लोक गीतों के बारे में जानते हुए चर्चा करते हैं। देखिए, ये हम बात करते हैं एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत की, किस तरीके से हम उसको इंटीग्रेट करते हैं अपने जो है वो स्टेट की, अपने कल्चर की बात कर रहे हैं, उसके साथ में और उसको आगे बढ़ाएं दूसरा पेयर्ड स्टेट के साथ, उनके कल्चर, उनके लोक गीतों के बारे में, उनकी लोक कथाओं के बारे में हम इंटीग्रेट करें। द सेम वी कैन डू इन इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज एज वेल। अपने से भिन्न भाषा, खान पान, रहन सहन संबंधी विविधाओं के पर बातचीत कर, देखिए वही पॉइंट आ गया ना, एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत वाला। सरसरी तौर पर किसी पाठ्य वस्तु को पढ़कर उसकी विषय वस्तु का अनुमान लगाते हैं, प्रिडिक्शन करता, कितना मतलब उनकी हम कौन सी वैल्यूज को एनहांस कर रहे हैं, प्रिडिक्ट करें कि क्या हो सकता है ऐसी सिचुएशन में। तो आपको ऐसे उनको टॉपिक्स देने हैं, ऐसे उनको विषय देने हैं। और क्या करना है, मैंने इंग्लिश में भी बताया था, लर्निंग आउटकम्स के लिए वो अपॉर्चुनिटी मैट्रिक्स बनाना है सबसे पहले, द स्टेप वन। एंड देन उसके बाद है किसी पाठ्य वस्तु की बारीकी से जांच करते हुए उसमें किसी विशेष बिंदु को खोजते हैं, अनुमान लगाते हैं, निष्कर्ष निकालते हैं कि क्या है। देखो, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग टॉकिंग अबाउट हिंदी भाषा में विभिन्न प्रकार की सामग्री, समाचार पत्र, पत्रिका, कहानी, राइट, जितने भी इंटरनेट पर प्रकाशित होने वाली सामग्री है उसको समझते हैं, अपनी पसंद के नापसंद, अपनी राय, अपनी टिप्पणी देते हैं, डिस्कशंस में उनको पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, उनको अपने पॉइंट्स रखने का आगे हम उनको एक मौका देते हैं कि वो अपने विचार विमर्श कर सके, तर्क वितर्क करें, ये पसंद है, नहीं पसंद है, उनको एक तरह का विश्लेषण करते हैं वो। तो इस तरीके से ये हमारी एक लर्निंग आउटकम है। भाषा की बारीकियों, व्यवस्था, ढंग पर ध्यान देते हुए हम क्या करते हैं, उसकी सराहना करते हैं। जैसे कविता में लय, तुक, उसके छंद, कहानी, निबंध, मुहावरे, लोकोक्तियां, हम उनकी भाषा को कितना ब्यूटीफुल बनाते हैं। जैसे इंग्लिश में बात किया, डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ स्पीच सिखाते हैं, इडियम्स, प्रोवर्ब्स को यूज कर पाए एप्टली, जो उनके सिलेबस में है। तो ये हमारी लर्निंग आउटकम है। हमारी लर्निंग आउटकम ये नहीं है जो हम लिखते हैं चैप्टर को पढ़ पाए, उसके बैक एक्सरसाइज के क्वेश्चन कर पाए और अच्छे नंबर ले लें। आई मीन क्या हमारी लर्निंग आउटकम्स हैं, दीज आर आवर लर्निंग आउटकम्स। तो हमें इसके अकॉर्डिंगली अपना लेसन प्लान बनाना है। विभिन्न विधियों में लिखी गई साहित्यिक सामग्री को उपयुक्त उतार चढ़ाव, सही गति के साथ पढ़ते हैं। वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रॉपर इंटोनेशन, प्रोनाउंसिएशन, प्रॉपर पॉजेज वेर एवर इट इज रिक्वायर्ड, ताकि वो उनमें एक्सप्रेशन बहुत अच्छा है। से हम क्लासेस में कितने एक्टिविटीज कंडक्ट करते हैं, बच्चों को बोलते हैं कि इस विषय पर बोलना है, डिबेट है, डेक्लेमेशन है, एक्सटेम्परी है। वो जब तक वो उनको पता नहीं चलेगा वो लैंग्वेज का उतार चढ़ाव, कहाँ बोलना है, पॉजेज हैं, उसके ऊपर हमें फोकस करना है। तो ये हमारी लर्निंग आउटकम है। हिंदी भाषा में विविध प्रकार की रचनाओं को पढ़ते हैं, अलग अलग कथा है, कहानी है, कविता है, फिर उसमें अलग अलग और श्लोक हैं या जो भी, आप तो आपको बहुत कुछ पता है, वो सब बच्चों को वो पढ़ पाए, उसको समझ पाए, पता चले उनको कि ये कि हम किस रचना की बात कर रहे हैं। नए शब्दों के प्रति जिज्ञासा व्यक्त करते हैं, वोकैबुलरी एनहांसमेंट, उनके अर्थ समझने का प्रयोग करते हैं। तो ये है इसकी कुछ एक लर्निंग आउटकम्स जो कि मैंने जस्ट आपसे शेयर करी हैं। अब मैं आपको दिखाऊंगी एक लेसन प्लान कि इन लर्निंग आउटकम्स के बेस पर हाउ वी विल बी मेकिंग अ लेसन प्लान। इंग्लिश में होगा लेसन प्लान, पर हम उसको साथ साथ हिंदी में भी समझेंगे कि कैसे करते हैं। ठीक है, तो देखते हैं ये लेसन प्लान कैसे डेवलप करते हैं। So, this is a lesson plan. This is in English language. This has been developed for class 6, for which I have just talked about various learning outcomes. तो हम इसको दोनों बाइलिंगुअल रखेंगे ताकि हिंदी और इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज दोनों वाले इसको समझ पाएं कि कैसे उसको लेसन प्लान को हमने बनाना है, कैसे लर्निंग आउटकम्स जो हमने अभी सीखी हैं उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट करनी है। देखिए, ये लेसन प्लान का एक अलग फॉर्मेट है, मैंने एक अलग पहले शेयर किया है आप सबसे। सैम्पल लेसन प्लान मैंने साइंस का भी शेयर किया था। तो हम हमारे ये ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि हमने सारी चीजों को इनकॉर्पोरेट करना है, लर्निंग आउटकम्स को भी इनकॉर्पोरेट करना है, लर्निंग लेडर की बात करनी है, असेसमेंट की बात करनी है। तो उसका फॉर्मेट इज अप टू अस, कैसे भी हम रखना चाहते हैं, वर्टिकल है, हॉरिजॉन्टल है, एक्सेल में बनाना है, वर्ड में बनाना है, वो आप जैसे टेक्स्ट हैवी बना सकते हैं। इतने सारे अभी ब्यूटीफुल प्लेटफॉर्म है, आप कोई भी प्लेटफॉर्म यूज कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर बात कर रहे हैं इंग्लिश के लेसन प्लान के बारे में। एज यू कैन सी राइट नाउ ऑन द स्क्रीन, लर्निंग आउटकम्स। तो क्विकली जरा लर्निंग आउटकम्स इसके पढ़ लेते हैं। रीड्स अ वैरायटी ऑफ टेक्स्ट इन इंग्लिश, ये हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव, हम उस लर्निंग आउटकम्स को हमने लिया है यहाँ पर। Identifies main ideas, characters, sequence of ideas, events, and relates with his or her personal life experiences. So we are talking about real life integration. Recites, see all the learning outcomes, they are beginning with the verbs. Recites and shares poems, songs, jokes, riddles, tongue twisters, because that is in sync with my chapter, my poem that I am taking right now. So that's why I have taken this learning outcome from the list of the learning outcomes that I have already shared with you. Writes words, phrases, simple sentences, and short paragraphs as dictated by the teacher. So first we are talking about teacher is dictating, and they are able to understand, write, interpret, and uses meaningful sentences to describe or narrate factual, imaginary situations in speech and writing. We are talking about creative skills and critical thinking. So these are our learning outcomes. Let us see whether we are able to achieve these learning outcomes in the lesson plan or not. So moving ahead, if you can see right now here, learning ladder assessment content. Now what is a learning ladder? Learning ladder क्या है? एक syllabus प्रोग्रेशन लेडर होती है ना, सीढ़ी ऊपर ऊपर चढ़ जाते हैं। लर्निंग लेडर, हम कैसे प्रोग्रेस करते हैं, कैसे स्टेप बाय स्टेप हमने वो क्या सिलेबस उसमें इनकॉर्पोरेट करना है, जिसको हमने असेसमेंट करनी है, जिसकी जिसके अकॉर्डिंगली असेसमेंट करने के बाद में वी विल बी एबल टू से ओके द चिल्ड्रन दे हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस। तो अभी वो सीढ़ी के अगले स्टेप के ऊपर पांव रख सकते हैं। लर्निंग लेडर का असेसमेंट जो कंटेंट है, दिस शुड शो अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ एक्सप्लिसिट मीनिंग। ये हम इसको करेंगे कि अगर वो मीनिंग समझ पा रहे हैं, right? And then shows understanding of implicit meanings and perspectives. Both explicit and implicit meanings we are talking about. Communicates a personal response to text. What is read, supported by textual reference. So reference to the context we are talking about, right? So this is a learning ladder assessment content जो हमने assess करना है throughout this lesson plan. Lesson duration 40 minutes. Usually we are having a 40 minutes class. So 40 minutes में हम क्या cover कर पा रहे हैं? मैंने पहले आपसे discuss किया था हमारा previous lesson plan about one full-fledged lesson plan in science, and it took 8 days. And here I'm talking about a 40 minutes lesson plan that we'll be covering in that. Resources needed. I need, first of all, the poem that I am going to teach. I should have a poem in the textbook or maybe writing, photocopy, howsoever it is, and then images of different types of homes, and some of the suggestions you'll be able to see that have been added over here in this lesson plan. And in this lesson plan, you see there's a different format. As you can see, lesson activities and assessment. 8 minutes. I have written introductory activity. I have divided those 40 minutes into different you see, minutes. First of all, 8 minutes. I will be different parts I've divided into. 8 minutes I'll be spending out of those 40 minutes as introductory activity. Make a collage of the image depicting all kinds of homes, because the poem is related to different kinds of homes. So make a collage of the images depicting all kinds of homes. Show the class the images and ask them to volunteer the words that come into their heads as they view them. I have to show them these pictures. Either I'll be making a collage, e-collage. It's very easy for us to do. We can collect the pictures from internet. We can show it to the students on our smart board or whatever. Or you may show paper collage. If you are not able to do the same, you don't want to get it done from your class itself, you can get it done from some other class students as another activity, and you can show the same in the class, right? So collage you will be showing to the students, and you will be asking the students to volunteer. Give the first word that is coming to your mind. That is introductory activity. They'll be talking about the different kinds of homes they're talking about. Write the words on the whiteboard, blackboard, and then scatter them, right? And then ask them how many of the images are of the houses. They should identify at least 2 houses. This is what I want. At least they should be able to identify minimum 2 houses, right? maybe more than that also, but minimum level I have to show over here. In pairs, ask them to consider the difference between a house and a home. Let them talk, group discussion. To help, you can offer prompts such as, do birds and animals live in houses? Do all people live in a house? Are all houses lived in? So you'll be talking about all those things and what would be the assessment for that. Using discussion to elicit evidence of prior knowledge and to introduce the topic. Asking questions to move learning forward. See, I want to move learning forward. That's why I keep on asking. I'll be giving them clues as well. So that is actually the assessment of their learning too. I mean to say PK testing that we are talking about, previous knowledge testing, and we have activated their previous knowledge also, right? So now moving ahead for the main activity, that is another 8 minutes activity. I have mentioned over here, read the poem A House, a Home to the class. Right. For reading, I have shared number of strategies. There are almost 5 videos on my channel. You'll be able to get number of activities for reading, how you have to go ahead with the reading, whether it is teacher-led, student-led, collaborative, round robin. I mean, number of activities you will be able to get on my channel. I'll be sharing those links as well in the description box. Make sure you go through and keep on changing this strategy. Read the poem and you should model good reading practices. It may happen like students, they are not able to pronounce the words properly. So first you should model good reading by reciting the poem in a rhythmic way and in a lively tone. And teach the class to recite the poem by splitting it into 2 lines at a time. Tell the learners to copy your rhythm and pronunciation. Recite the poem as a whole class. You could record it, play the recording back to them, like whether you are in rhythm or not. Take the mobile phone. Nowadays, we are having get you see permission from the management, from the principal, from the coordinator, whosoever it is. You may record it, right, and then let them listen to it, video recording, audio recording, whatever you want to go ahead, let them recite for that. So, and the assessment, providing modeling to move learning forward. Now step by step you are checking. I mean, you have provided one model reading to the students. You have set one target, and now you're asking them to read it, to recite it, till they match the tone, right? Or till they get better than you. I mean, that at least they should be able to read that point in the pronunciation, right? Intonation, in the rhythm that you have set a target after model reading. So for that, I have spent 8 minutes, right, on this activity. Now moving ahead. Now, I have written it during reading aloud activities, support good use of pause, tone, intonation by praising the learners who clearly demonstrate it by reading sections. Yourself should demonstrate good practice before passing back to the learner. I have already explained this. Put learners into pairs and ask them to imagine what a house that is empty would look like and how it would make them feel. Empty house, we're talking about discussion, critical thinking, imagination, right? And they will be able to relate the same in the real life as well. Providing feedback and modeling to move learning forward. Learners collaborating to improve learning, collaboration, right? And ask the learners. Now, 5 minutes I'll be spending on some interaction. Ask the learners to share any words or phrases that are useful by describing an empty house. You can use different kinds of words and phrases so that they'll be able to you see, frame sentences. It will be able to help them. And if the struggle suggests some words such as bare walls, silent hallways, or curtainless windows, write the words and phrases on the whiteboard. Asking questions and providing feedback to move learning forward. That is assessment. I mean, your journal interaction is going on. When we talk about FAs, formative assessment, that should be a part and parcel of your life. After every 10 minutes, you should ask some question, pose some question that will make your students attentive in the class, that will help you to assess their learning, right? And keep their learning forward. You will be able to get to know whether they are understanding or not, whether they are with you or they are somewhere else. Now, 7 minutes. Next, in the pairs, ask the learners to create a poem called The Empty House. The poem should have 6 lines. They should use some of the words, phrases on the whiteboard. They can use rhythm, but do not, you see, have to sing or whatever. So sharing success criteria, we have shared with them that they have to frame their own poem. Now here you can go for acrostic poem. Here you can go for any other forms of poems. So the children, they can go ahead with that. as per their interest, as per you see children's caliber talent. Now, learners can swap the poems with another pair and offer feedback using the checklist above. Peer mentoring, peer feedback, you can go ahead with that. For that, you have to be ready with that kind of format. Different feedback strategies are there, 2 stars and a wish. That is my favorite feedback strategy. You can go for a number of other reflection strategies on my channel, incorporate them, keep on changing them. Peer review we are talking about. And then 8 minutes. 8 minutes now. Ask the learners to look at verse 2 of the poem and what it suggests about a home. Ask them to pick out all the words about people, all the words about how we should act towards one another. Bounce the ideas around the class and use a no hands up approach to involve as many learners as possible. See, I have talked about no hands policy as well on my channel. I've talked about PPPB strategy as well. I won't be able to give you the details over here, but just would like to explain you PPPB, triple PB is pose a question, then pause for some time, right? And then when you will be pointing out who will be pounce, you have to pounce like who will be answering the question, and then the answer you will be bouncing to the another child to give different kinds of responses. That is a wonderful strategy that you can go ahead in your classes, right? So here you will be able to get number of responses, use discussion to elicit evidence of learning. Ask the learners to write 6 sentences about what makes a home. Sentence writing, I have already mentioned in the learning outcomes. So each sentence should include one of the following words. So we are asking them to frame sentences with the given words. They should know the meanings as well. And now remind the learners that they should punctuate their sentences correctly. Grammar also we are talking about. Now the plenary. 4 minutes assessment for learning at the end of a plenary. Here all the children, they are expected to participate. In between, when we are taking assessment, means in general randomly we are asking a few students. Maybe for the first time we have asked 4 students to participate and another 4, then another 4. Here in the plenary, that is for all, mandatory for all of you to take part in. Ask all the learners to consider the statement, a house is only a home when people are in it. Ask learners to write their response on an exit slip and hand it in as they leave the lesson. Exit ticket. Exit ticket is, certainly I have already discussed with you. In exit ticket, you will be asking children to give the review, to write 1 sentence, 1 learning, 3 words, whatever you would like to ask them to write. So then using plenary activity to elicit evidence of the learning. Every day you will be able to get to know where are your children. Are they able to understand what are you teaching or not? Have they grasp anything, right? So after that, key competencies. Right? What all competencies I have focused on? I need not to show, you know it very well. Collaboration, communication, emotional development, and learning to learn. These kinds of, sorry, activities I have talked about. Now, different kinds of links I have shared in my lesson plan, as I have told you. Different pictures that I'll be using in the beginning and the form of a collage to show it to my students so that they'll be able to at least recognize who of the houses, right? See the different images. You can see all the images I have taken from Unsplash, Creative Commons. Even in Microsoft Word, if you go ahead with that, sorry, excuse me. In Microsoft Word, if you talk about different kinds of pictures, when you insert in the Word document, they come as Creative Commons. So, I mean, you need not to take permission for that. Right, so these are a few pictures that I have shown you here, a few links as well. So this is how you will go ahead with the lesson plan, assessment, resources, right? Each and everything. When we have added art also, when we have discussion also, so different, when we have used ICT as well. So there is another form of the lesson plan. Make sure you use it. Now I'd like to explain the same in Hindi language as well for our Hindi learners.